Hi, this is Katie with Pink Polish Design, and today I have something a bit different for you. This piece is titled A Rose by Any Other Name, after that Shakespeare line, and I'd like to discuss my experiment here with watercolor canvas. So, a long time ago, I used to use watercolor canvas board, and I was pretty successful with using those. They were interesting to use, but I had never seen these actual watercolor canvases that are specially treated to be able to utilize wet medium on them. So as you pull them out of the package, they do have a coating on them, and you can feel that it's a thick coating that I assume prevents the water from soaking in quite as much into the canvas fibers. So this is a bit different for me, as I normally use a combination of watercolor and ink, and because I really wanted to try out this product with a medium that they recommend, I thought I'd be able to give it a fair test here. I would use just watercolor. So that in and of itself was a bit of a challenge for me. I find I rely on my ink skills a lot for my shadows. So this was an interesting experiment. So first, how I started was I took my illustration from earlier this week out of my sketchbook and scanned it into the computer and printed it on standard copy paper so that I could tape it on the back of this canvas and hold it up over my light box, which was really great. I didn't expect to be able to transfer the image that way, so I was very happily surprised that it showed through enough that I could transfer that easily onto this canvas. So after I did that, once my pencil lines were down, I went ahead and went over that with a high pigmented purple color there, just low water, so that I could trace off the design really nicely and sharply. And I used my shadow color for that, knowing that that would be kind of the turned under portions of the different individual petals, and sometimes the inner portion where the two petals met. So a bit about the pencil lines in this. I did find that this canvas, I had trouble blending out my pencil lines once they were there. So normally on standard watercolor paper, you can put down a pencil drawing, and as you go over it with the water, it will slowly fade. And it might not go away entirely, but it will fade out. This did not fade at all. So I think I probably would have tried using either a watercolor pencil or maybe a colorized pencil to do that in the future. A couple other observations I had working with this. It did not react well to flooding it with water, as I would traditionally do if I'm trying to do a really nice gradient. It does soak into the fibers. It doesn't soak through the canvas, but you will notice the water does not sit on top of the canvas. So that makes it really difficult to push around pigment if you're used to working with watercolors in that way as I am. I also found that it did lift pigment very nicely. When I did get too much water in an area, you would notice that the pigment would sit on top of the individual fibers, and you get this kind of speckled look, which wasn't the look I was going for. I was going for a very nice smooth look. That was easily fixed by going in with a dry brush and moving some of that water around and kind of blending that pigment back in. So once I got done with the majority of work on the flower, I went in to work on the leaves. Once again, I had trouble with those pencil lines not fading out. So I started out laying down a green over those pencil lines and ended up going, especially on those inner stalks, in with a brown, so that, and then I blended that in with the green. I gave it a little bit more color and dimension, which I really liked, and it did cover those pencil lines nicely. So as far as the background is concerned, I will be completely honest, I really had no plan whatsoever. I knew I wanted to do a very nice soft background with this, maybe something that looked like the floor of a garden, or with some leaves, but I didn't quite know what I was doing. So you'll see I tried a couple different things here and nothing was really working out. So I ended up throwing just a whole lot of green and brown pigments down on the canvas, and I went through and tried this technique, since it lifted pigment so nicely, of lifting out pigment and making this really soft leaf design. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. That was really unexpected. So you'll see here's, as I said, just a lot of pigment. The trickiest part of this was the canvas dries very quickly, much more quickly than watercolor paper generally does, which is great when you're waiting for your paint to dry, but it's not so great when you want to have a nice gradiated background. You can see moving pigment's really interesting. I put down a few water dots just to see what they would do here, and it lifted all the pigment. I could see doing some really cool effects with that later, but it wasn't exactly what I was going for here. So you'll see in just a moment here, I start doing those kind of fern leaves in the background. So how I did those was to take a really wet brush, and I had it somewhat dry. You don't want it too dry where your pigment won't lift, but you do want it, you don't want it super wet either. There was one that I had a lot of trouble with because it was too wet and then it just faded out altogether. But by doing that, you're lifting and kind of moving pigment around slightly, and it gives you these really nice soft effects. It reminds me of when I used to do sandpaper with leaves, and it would give you this white relief of a leaf on the sandpaper, and that's what this reminds me of. So overall, I'm really happy with how this worked out. I'm really eager to try this with canvas board again and try it out with my ink and watercolor techniques, and I hope this was a useful video for you. I will have 8" by 8" art prints available of this piece in my shop shortly, and check me out on Patreon if you like my artwork. I've got some great benefits there. Lastly, if you like this video, give it a quick thumbs up and maybe follow me for more videos, and share with me your experiences with watercolor canvases. Have they worked well for you? What sorts of mediums have you used on them? Thank you for watching.